Okay, so welcome to this chapter about texturing a house. Much like the video about modeling the house, it's going to be just a complete work through. I'll go through every single object or mesh in the scene, and I'll UV it and texture it accordingly. It's not going to so much focus on the fundamental steps. We covered the fundamental steps of texturing in the last chapter. This is mainly going to show you a workflow that I'm using here. I'm just going to tackle this house clean or fresh. I'm just going to approach each model as I would approach it in maybe something I was doing. So there's no like predefined way I'm going to do this. We're gonna tackle the questions and the problems and the issues together. That way, it'll maybe give you a glimpse of an organic workflow, something that you'll be experiencing when you're tackling your house. So, how do I texture this? How do I UV this roof, and where do I get this texture at? We're going to tackle those together as we go along. The outline right here will be set up thusly, and I might go in and add certain bullet points for the concepts that it took to texture maybe the foundation. So it'll be kind of like a little signifier of what we did there. So if you're going back and looking through the outline, you'll be like, so how do I deal with an object that has a lot of duplications? Well, you'll be able to see which one of these bullet points here we touch those concepts on. So without further posturing, why don't we go ahead and get started here. So the first thing I'm going to do is press 6 on my keyboard to bring up the textures I've already made for my house. In the last video, we tackled an automatic texturing workflow for the outside walls of my house. And we went in and we textured the more organic mesh of my couch. So we're really not going to touch on those two things since we've already covered them. So why don't we just go ahead and start tackling the roof here. All right, so what I'm going to do is I'm going to go into my outliner and right click anywhere, go to set all layers and make them invisible. Now that's going to clean up my scene, and then I'm just going to bring back my roof. I know it's somewhere in here. There's my roof layer. And we're going to tackle this guy as we go. So the first thing I'm noticing about my roof is, do I even need that bottom part? Let's see. Yeah, it looks like I do. We can see a little bit of a bottom part there. So we will account for the bottom part of my roof. I'm going to break this down into 3 separate pieces here. And I'm going to bring in my spreadsheet here. You can see I've got it updated with things I've already modeled. Oh, it looks like I need to update. Yes, we've UV'd the outer walls. Yes, it's textured. So we can apply the green there. And then I think I will do the same to my couch. So you can see, if you keep up with your spreadsheet, it kind of creates like a nice little tick mark so you can organize your thoughts and pick what you want to tackle next. It's just a good way to organize and attack. So we're going to hit my roof next. All right. And another reason I brought up my outliner is because I have my reference images linked to it. So there's my house, and now we have a picture of my roof here. All right. So you'll notice something about my roof. It's got a kind of a slat tin roof kind of thing with, it almost looks like vinyl siding, but it's just kind of ridges. It also has molding around the outside edges of just a flat white paint. And we also have some vinyl siding on the flat parts that, make up the rest of the wall here. So we're going to have to tackle those 3 things separately with my roof here. So why don't I go ahead and just isolate the actual top of my roof here. So I'm going to do that just by selecting all the pieces of my roof. Make sure I get every face. All right, I'm just shift selecting the add them all. And need to get that bit right there. All right, so we're not going to separate the meshes in this tutorial. We're going to keep them all together. But in order to maybe make it easier to select the different parts of my house, we can do that in my UV editor here. What I can already go ahead and do is maybe set up a automatic map of everything I have, all the faces I have selected. So I'll go to UV and do an automatic map. All right, so I'll go to shell. That way I can pull my house out right here. Actually, let me undo that. Make sure I'm just automatically mapping the faces I have selected. All right, hit apply. So there's my UV texture editor, faces, and then with my faces of just the roof of my house selected, I can do this. All right, so I'm going to leave that there for now. We're not going to worry too much about my roof. We'll go back in and maybe fix some of the stretching and skewing that'll probably happen there. Um, in order to really do that, though, I'm going to go ahead and find a texture. I'm going to move these UVs out of the way here. We're going to find a texture for that house real quickly. So to do that, I'll bring in my textures.com, and why don't we search for roof. I'll just type in roof there and see if it finds anything good. All right, we're seeing a lot of different things. We're mainly seeing shingles. It'll be fun. And I'm going to try to get as close to that, I don't know, tin roof texture we saw. That looks to be about pretty good there, maybe. Let me see if there's just anything else on this front page here that I like. Nope, I like that. We'll go back up. So I'll select this guy right here, and thankfully it's seamless. So it looks like it's having trouble bringing it up there. There we go. And I'll download the small one. And remember, if you don't have a premium account, we only have 15 downloads. So we're going to make sure we download exactly what we want. So there's my roof JPEG. I'm going to open its file location in my downloads folder here. Let me clean it up real quick. All right, so I got my downloads folder organized. Now I'm going to bring up my actual textures folder, and I have one made right here in my chapter 10, texture in a house, textures. And we're going to just drag and drop or copy and paste this into the right folder so I know where to find it. And I'm going to rename this roof 10 seamless. There we go. So now I have a texture that I know where to find. I got it named right. Let's go into Maya and make a new material for it so we can apply it to these faces here. So I'll bring up my Hypershade, Windows, Rendering Editor, Hypershade. And I'll bring in my Hypershade. I'll create a blend, because if this is going to be metal, it'll probably have a little bit of shininess. I'll double click my material, and we'll call this Roof Matte. All right, so there's my material made. I'll go to Color, click on the checkerboard, click on File, and I'll click on the folder to go find out where that could be. So here we go. And there's my Roof 10, and I'll open it. And now we have a material that has the right kind of texture on it. So what we're going to do is I'm going to select these faces here, just the faces. So the roof, the faces of the top part, the 10 part of my roof selected. I'm going to right click onto my, why don't I make these a little bit bigger? There we go. I'll right click and assign to selection, like so. And we can already see we have some problems going on here. All right. It's not faced the right way. So maybe we just need to use our quick rotate tool up here at the top of my UV editor. And there we go. Maybe I need to make it a little bit bigger now. That's looking pretty good. But you'll notice the front part of my roof right here, it's not doing too good. It's like this totally new section coming out. So what I need to do is I need to separate these UVs right here from my main island that I created with my automatic map. So with those faces selected, let's see, do I need a split? Yeah, we'll go to split UVs. So with the faces you have selected, now you've split it away, you've cut it away from the main body. Now we can rotate it and we can get it going in the right direction now. So there's the roof. And it may not look exactly like what we have in our reference material right here, but we're not really getting into texture manipulation in this chapter. We're just worried about UVing and applying textures to our models. We're not going to get into Photoshop too much or at all in this chapter here. So we're going to make the best of what we can find. We're not going to spend too much time. We're going to pay homage to our source material, but I'm not going to obsess over it. All right. So looks like I got my roof UV now. All right. So what's interesting now is I have these UVs and I've scaled them up and just got them, perfect the way I want them. What I'll do is I'll just separate these UVs in my UV editor. I'll just move them out of the way. All right. So now I have some of these trash UVs left over here. And guess what? They correspond to the rest of my house right here. So what I can do next is why don't I focus on the vinyl siding of my house? All right, so if we look at my source image, you can see I have like some vinyl siding here. So I'm going to go back to textures.com and just type in vinyl siding. I might have misspelled that. Vinyl siding. That's not doing it. What should we look for here? Siding, maybe just do siding. And that looks to be what we want. Mainly it's just wood right now, so maybe we'll find some vinyl siding as we go down. Show more results. So there's a lot of options we can be picking here. I might just have to end up doing a white wood texture because I'm not finding the exact one I want. So I'm going to find actually, there we go. Well, it's wood planks, but it looks close enough to the vinyl siding. So we're going to do something that's going to be a little bit different here. I'm going to download the small one. This is only one free credit. And we're not going to be using Photoshop, so it's not seamless. So we're going to try to do the best we can with this without getting into too much texture manipulation. So there's, I don't know, let's say siding white, and it's not seamless, so I won't put the seamless there. I'll bring in my texture folder, place it right there. All right, let's minimize those. Let's get back into Maya. So next I'm going to go to my hypershade. So I haven't UV'd the actual vinyl siding of my house yet. I'm going to come in and make a Lambert material because this wood will not be shiny. All right, I'll minimize my UV. So I'll double click this new Lambert 7. We'll call this siding mat for the siding of my house. And we'll attach the file there. All right. So there we go. There's a nice siding right there. And you'll see why it's going to be a little bit different here in a second. So I'm going to go ahead and select the flat parts of my house here where the siding will go. And I'm going to do an automatic map because they're all facing left, right. So we're not having too much of a weird, curvature on them. It's pretty cut and dry. So I'll go to automatic map and I'll bring back my hypershade. And with those faces still selected, I'll right click on siding map and assign that material. And you can see they're not rotated in the right way. So why don't I bring back my UV texture editor here. I'm going to maybe dim it. The button right below will dim it for you. So I'm going to select each face individually. Actually, these are the left and right faces are pretty similar, so I'm going to kind of put them right on top of each other. Select them both. Go into face mode, select them both, and rotate. And since this is not a seamless texture, look what happens if I try to make it too big. We pick up the bottom of that windowsill here. So what I'll do is I'll make it just big enough where that doesn't show up. And that looks pretty good. I think that'll work for us. We do see a little bit of a seam like right here, but we'll live with it. We're not manipulating textures yet. That'll come later. So I'll select the front faces of my house here. I'll use my quick rotate. That's not good. All right, so I'm just going to select the faces that I need in my scene view. And then I'll rotate them. I just didn't have the right thing selected. And we'll try to get the scaling of the front similar to the size on the front of my house. And that looks pretty good right there. All right, cool. So now I can actually just place these anywhere, can I? Oh, well, actually, I can't place them anywhere. Why don't I just move them to the left here? Because when I select my whole house, I kind of want them to be kind of in different places so I can go back and just isolate those as we go. And I don't want you guys to be confused here. What we're doing is just really fast, bare bones type of UVing. Right now, I just want to get you guys used to creating nice looking textures on top of your models. We'll get into more advanced layouts and everything like that when we get to modeling 2. But for right now, we're just going to try to get our UVs as nice as possible with as little work as possible, the bare minimum. That's pretty nice, isn't it? Teaching you guys all kinds of good habits. All right, so for the molding of my house, this will be pretty easy. I'm just going to select the remaining faces in my UV editor. We'll go to UV, and we'll just go to automatic map. And we're not really going to get a texture for that since it's going to be just white wood. We'll go Lambert, and we'll call this wood painted white matte. It'll be just a real general. And I want to look and see if I can maybe, yeah, there we go. We'll make it white. And I want to bring back my hypershade, and we'll just make it just a white Lambert. All right. This will be our white painted surface right here. And we're just going to apply that. We're not going to worry too much about putting a texture on there. All right. So let me select my house again. You can see that I have my tin roof, my vinyl siding, and all the rest of the faces I just automatic mapped. We're just going to select those, and we're going to assign it to white wood. So there we go. You know what? That might be a little too white. I'm going to go in and kind of make it an off-white so it matches up with my vinyl siding a little bit more. So I'll go back to wood and maybe dinge it up a little bit. Maybe go in into my color wheel and make it a little bit orange or brownish. Just kind of create an off-white close to the kind of the white we have. There we go. A little bit darker maybe. I think that'll work. Actually, I don't like it. I'm going to make it a little bit. There we go. Kind of just an off-white there. Okay. So that is my roof textured. So I'm going to go back and reset my windows. All right. So I can go to my house now, or my spreadsheet, and do something like this. Roof is now textured. Okay. So why don't we go on to our next model? And why don't we move on to my foundation next? Okay. So I'll hide that. I'll bring back my foundation. And my foundation is going to be really simple. And before we even get started, I'm going to bring back my CG textures, and we're just going to have a nice concrete here. So we'll type in concrete at textures.com and just pick a nice seamless concrete. Nothing that's too terrible. I like this one. It's got a little flavor to it. So I picked the seamless version here. All right, that'll be good. And I'll download it. I'll bring it up. Let's open the file location. I'll just call this concrete seamless. And what you guys can start doing is you can start building up your own texture library. That way, whenever you have more assignments in the future, you can already have your textures downloaded and you won't need to keep coming back to the website and downloading random things because you've already used it before. So there's my concrete seamless. We're going to open up the hypershade here. We're going to make a new Lambert. I'll double click it and call this concrete material. And now let's apply the file. I'm really going through this. So at this point, you guys should be pretty comfortable with applying textures to your materials. So I'm going to go ahead. I'm going to do something a little different. I'm going to go ahead and apply my concrete material to my mesh before I UV it. And we can see the major, just the major stretching we have going on. So if I go to my UV editor, I mean, my concrete is still that upside down T we see from default cubes. But we're about to fix that. We'll go to UV. We'll do an automatic. It's not letting me. Well, I guess I have to select the faces. So I'll select the faces this time, do an automatic mapping, and there we go. But it's not that great because the concrete's too big, so I want to scale it up and maybe angle it. I want to do that. I'm going to rotate it this way. That looks to be about better. So something dangerous can occur if you just start texturing the individual models. Sometimes you won't know the scaling of it, so it pays to kind of maybe bring in things you've already textured. So I'm going to bring in the roof and the walls there. So that way I can get a sense of scale for how my concrete should look. And I think that's pretty good. I won't obsess about it. And that's basically my foundation done. So a lot of these can be really fast. And I'll go ahead and update. A lot of these can be really fast because we're just doing some automatic maps and whatnot. Why don't we go ahead and bring in my porch? I'm going to go ahead and maybe lock the things I've already textured so I can get a sense in my layers right here of what I've textured. And that way when I bring them into the scene, bring them back to look, I won't be able to select them or manipulate them in any way. All right, so I'm going to bring in my porch next. And my porch has a few different meshes here. And we're just going to apply an automatic map to these. So I'm going to go ahead and apply concrete to this as well. We can see that it's a mess. So I'm just going to UV and do an automatic map to that. But I'm going to select all the faces at the same time. To do that, I'm going to go up to my component selection right here. That way I'll be able to select all the faces at once for multiple objects here. I want to minimize this little magnifier. I'll probably keep using it. And now I'm going to do my automatic map like so. The concrete is still a little too big. So I'm just going to select all my meshes again. And from here, it's just kind of a simple resize. And there's a lot of islands here. All right, cool. And it looks like the automatic map varied up the location of my porch a little bit, so every step doesn't look the exact same. So I'm somewhat happy with that. There we go. And so it really is just that simple of doing an automatic map. Again, I want to stress that this is just quick and dirty texturing. In the future, we'll get into how you accurately UV this for a game engine. Right now, we're just trying to get textures and get comfortable with the whole UV projection and texture application to models in general. All right, cool. So that's my porch done. Next, I think I'm going to tackle the columns. And the columns will be pretty easy. I'm just going to select each one, go into my component selection right up here at the top here. Select faces, and we'll just select all the faces of my column at once and just do an automatic map. To be honest, I guess technically we didn't really need to texture the columns here because we're just going to use our white, where is that? Wood painted texture right there. And just put that off-white color on them. We're not going to spend too much time on the columns. You could go in and add your own wood grain texture to these things if you wanted to really kind of have like a really painted wood and really see the grain of the wood if you got up close. But I'm just going to barrel through this like so. All right, let's go on to the next thing. So we're going to tackle the windows next, and I'm going to go ahead and lock out my porch, like so. And let's bring in my windows. All right, so windows are pretty interesting because a lot of them are just duplicated. So I could technically, just texture one of these and then reposition them and go back in and reposition them over and over again. So I only have to UV one thing, with the exception of maybe the big window here. And it looks like, I might have to adjust the size of these. So right here we have to determine whether or not do we want to go ahead and just put an automatic map on all of them, because we're not really too worried about exactly where our UVs are laying. Automatic mapping seems to be doing a pretty good job. Or do we want to just UV one and then duplicate? I think I'm going to go ahead and just automatic map all of them at once. So I'll select them all, go into component mode. And now you can see I'm in component mode. Now I'll select the faces of them. And we'll just do a UV automatic map for those. All right. And you know what? I'm kind of feeling guilty of just putting a flat white Lambert on everything, because we're using that material a lot. And it's not, doesn't have any texture information on it. So I'm going to call an audible here. I'm going to go in and we're going to find a white painted texture. All right, so let's say white wood. And this is kind of what we get. So we're not looking for planks of wood. We're not looking for dingy wood. And then we might be kind of hard pressed to find exactly what we want here, because when wood's painted, you barely can really see the effects of it. And what we want to really get are seamless. So is that white wood? Is that white wood? I guess let's look at this one closer, so we can press this little magnifier. That's like white particle wood, and this right here is, I guess, it's just too. To me, it's too busy for a nice outside of a house, and that is concrete stucco. So not exactly what we're looking for either. So that's why I was hesitant to find the white wood that we wanted to use, because I mean, for all intents and purposes, finding a nice, clean, white wood painted surface almost looks just flat. But for the sake of the video here, I'm going to go ahead and choose this guy right here. Plywood painted. I guess we're going to have a plywood painted house. And it's seamless, so whatever. We'll just go with it. All right, great. Well, you know what? I might have just wasted a credit, because I might be able to teach off of this real quickly. That's really bad. No, I just can't find a good white. I just can't find a good one. We'll just use that one. All right, I'll quit changing my mind. All right, so I'm going to go now to my downloads folder, and we'll call this wood white seamless, and I'll drag it into my textures folder, like so. This might look real bad. We'll just see. Some part of texturing is just seeing how things actually look on your model here. So now I'll bring up my hypershade, double click my wood painted material, and instead of just using a flat color, I'll go in and apply the file to it now. So white wood. All right, so you'll notice something now. Now we actually have to go back and adjust some of the UVs on these objects here. So I'm going to do that real quick. I'll unlock my roof layer, and I'll select it. And it'll be somewhat easy to do because our UVs are separated right here in our UV editor. All I have to really do now is just kind of make them larger. There we go. That plywood's really coming in clean, guys. So good. And yeah, I'm going to make it just big enough where you can see if you come in, but maybe it kind of washes out when you pull away. And that is a real dingy kind of wood. Yeah. Let's see. So to make the wood not look so dark and dingy, I'm going to cheat a little bit. I'm going to go into my Hypershade and double click on my wood painted material. And I'm going to increase its ambient color. That'll fake like a lot of like light is really hitting this right here. So maybe we can get away from that really dark wood there. But now it's a little too white compared to my vinyl siding. Ah, there we go. Oh my goodness, that actually doesn't look terrible. I mean, we're still making a house out of plywood, but from far away, at least it's kind of matching the color of my siding there. All right, I like it. Okay, so why don't we go in and adjust those porch columns real quick? So all we have to do really is just adjust the UVs on them, make them a little bit bigger. And we'll zoom in to get a sense of scale for it. And I'm just scaling, and I'll live with that. All right, so now let's make plywood windows. So I'll go ahead and lock back that. So again, I'm going to select all my windows, go into component mode up here, right click to choose faces. Let's select them all now. And let's bring up my UV editor so we can see what happens. Oh, it looks like we already have automatic mapped it. All right, great. So now all I have to do is I'll just select all the meshes, the objects, the full mesh of my windows so I can apply that material now. We'll go to wood painted. And we can see that the plywood's a little too big. So I'm going to scale up these UVs like so. You can scale them up really big. Maybe we can quit seeing some of that plywood, and now it kind of just looks, I don't know, now we kind of just see like a noise texture rather than, hey, that's obviously pressed wood, particle wood pressed together. So, okay. Those are my windows done. So let's head up my door real quick. So I'm kind of tired of making plywood stuff. I'm going to come in and find a really nice door here. Oh, and it looks like, why is that green? Well, it's because it doesn't have a material assigned to it now. So if you ever see a green, neon green in your scene, just go ahead and apply that Lambert 1 to it, and that'll get rid of it. So our door will be made up of 4 or 3 different pieces: the molding around the outside, the metal knot handle, and the actual wood of my door here. So how did I make this? I think I combined my door. So here we have a combined mesh. So I'm going to go to mesh, separate. Now I've separated my door into its 3 parts we were just talking about. Now I can texture them separately. All right, so what am I going to do for this handle here? Why don't we look at it? So what I'm going to do with this doorknob is find kind of like a bronze texture to apply to it. All right, so let's go in and look for maybe a seamless bronze. Bronze. There's some bronze right there. A lot of this is ornate bronze, huh? Okay. Is that the only seamless bronze they have? That looks to be about pretty good. So we'll pick this bronze copper. Let's download that. Let's bring up my Windows. And we'll call this bronze seamless. And we'll put it in my textures folder. And why don't we make a bronze material real quick? So I'll bring up my Hypershade. And I'm going to make this a blend, and we'll call this bronze material. And let's apply that bronze texture we just found. Bronze seamless. All right. So I'm going to middle mouse click and drag my bronze, and that looks like a nightmare right now. So we have a more organic shape right here. Let me focus on it so I can rotate around it. So why don't I just go ahead and do a UV automatic map. Well, let me select those faces. UV automatic map. You know what? That actually did a pretty good job. I don't see any seams. Maybe there's one right there. No, don't see that. Automatic map is just so nice for getting quick UVs made. That's why I don't think it'll be too big of a deal to really texture this house. I don't think it'll take too much time. So there we go. There's my automatic map of my bronze UVs. And of course, I think how much scale do we want to have here? I think I'll go with something like that. So that's a really beat up bronze door handle. It's good stuff. I'll select the front molding of my door now. And you guessed it, automatic map that. With those faces still selected, I'll apply the wood material onto it. And we can see that that wood is just too big. So why don't we do something like that? There we go. And you know what? We really need to do something to this house. It's being made out of plywood and crappy looking tin metal. I mean, why don't we make this door look pretty good? So I'm going to bring back this right here. And why don't we say, let's just type in wood and see if we can find like a really regal looking wood grain. That looks pretty good. I think we'll be able to use this wood grain on our table on the inside as well. So I'm going to go ahead and does this have, it's got seams, it's planked, but I'll live with it. There we go. And why don't I call this dark wood seamless. There we go. Or you know what, to keep with my naming conventions, let's call this wood dark seamless. And that'll keep with wood white seamless. Now I have a wood dark seamless. And they're next to each other now. Okay. So let's automatic map this doorway like so. UV automatic map. But first, I guess we should have made a. So do we make a Lambert or a blend? I think I'll make a Lambert. I don't want my door to be shiny. And we'll call this wood dark matter. And let's apply that texture. Wood dark seamless. That looks pretty good. And let's just slap it onto my door here. That doesn't look too bad. It's almost the right scale too. I think it might be a little too big. So there we go. And that's my door made. So I've basically textured the outside of my house now. All right, great. I'm going to kind of clean up everything here. And I'm going to lock down that. So here I have the outside of my house textured. We've hit a nice little milestone. I'm going to go back to my list here. And why don't I go ahead and update everything that I've textured. All right, great. So we can still see I have a little bit of a ways to go here. But that was a pretty quick workflow. You know, I was automatic mapping most things in my scene there. All right, so why don't we just keep on trucking? So we're going to start looking at the inside of my house now, especially my inner walls. So now I can actually hide everything on the outside. And why don't I bring in my inner walls here? And my inner walls have the molding attached to them, so we'll have to look at those in a second. But why don't I find a really nice wallpaper to get going here? So how many more credits do I have? I have 9 more credits. So I got to texture everything in 9 credits. Excuse me. So this brings up an interesting conundrum. I got to be really good with how many textures I can use because I'm running out here. So that's kind of something you could avoid in the future, definitely, with direct control of your textures. But it's gonna make me kind of think about what kind of textures I want to download here. So I'm gonna go back to my sheet here, and you know what? I think what I can do for texture sheet name, I can actually start putting the names of the materials on everything so I can know what I'm going to be able to reuse in the future. So outer walls was brick. That was the name of that mat. My roof had tin and siding and white wood. Foundation was concrete. Porch was concrete. Columns was white wood. Windows, white wood. And door had bronze, white wood, and dark wood. All right, so we're keeping things in check here. So I'm gonna go through here and say, okay, what is my inner walls? I'm gonna have to have um, a separate little wallpaper. So we'll say wallpaper. Floor will have carpet. Ceiling will have, I guess it'll have a ceiling. We'll find like a stucco. Chimney, we can just make brick again, so we can reuse that. Molding will have white wood. Lights, I don't have lights, so I'm going to delete that. The only thing I have that are lights in here are my chandelier. Rug will have its own rug material. Couch, we already have that zebra print. End table, do we want to make it white wood or dark wood? Let's make it dark wood. We can reuse that one. Dark wood for my cabinets. And dark wood for my counters. I don't have cabinets, so I'll get rid of that one. Sink will have, we'll have to find a metal material, and that'll have the same metal. Table will have dark wood. Chairs will have dark wood. And we got metal for my chandelier, or we can even make that bronze or whatever. So it doesn't look like I'll have to get too many more materials. We've reused a lot. So let me undo that. So that's going to be pretty nice. Okay. So now that I know I don't have too much of a restriction on downloading things from this website, why don't I go and look up wallpaper? Ah, there we go. I have some beauties to work from. I'm gonna find a really weird one, and we want it to be seamless. I'll pick this one. So there's my wallpaper. Wallpaper, seamless. Pull it down into there. I'm really zooming through these steps because I know it's probably got to get boring to see it over and over again. Let's bring up my hyper shader. Let's make a Lambert. Double click this. We're on to Lambert 11. Let's call this wallpaper. Matte. Color. File. Hit the folder. And select wallpaper seamless. Ooh, there's my little wallpaper map. All right, so we're just going to do a automatic map for the inside of my walls as well. Why don't we go ahead and apply that wallpaper material so we can see what we're working with. And yikes, that looks terrible. UV, actually select these faces. UV automatic map. Still looks like a nightmare. I'll bring in my texture editor here. And it looks like we just have to And nice, we'll have to flip these in my UV editor, hit my flip button. And there we go. Now, most houses don't use wallpaper like this anymore, but for the intents and purposes of the video, I'm going to make this house look as ugly as possible, you know, for the video. So I'm going to make sure, I'm going to make sure none of the patterns are being cut off. You can see my patterns being cut off into that corner right now. So I'm going to pay a little bit of extra special attention to that. So I've selected one of the faces of the walls that had these UV islands. So I'll go to shell. Actually, yeah, I'll just pick that shell and I'll just move it over. So yeah, you don't want to just flop them on there and be like, whatever, it's just automatic mapping. Have a little bit of consideration for what's going on. And my molding right here, why don't I go ahead and I will go to display, hide selection. Just get that wall temporarily hidden. So I have no problem selecting all the molding here. Component mode, just be able to select multiple separate meshes, be able to select all their faces at once. Select them all, UV, automatic map. Let's go. Hypershade, let's put that white wood on there. Wood painted white. Apply. So I really don't know what's going on right now. So I'm going to zoom in and we can see that, yikes, really stretched textures here. But no bother. We're going to grab those UVs and just scale them up. And then to bring back that wall that was hidden, I'll go to display, show, and we'll just show everything that's hidden. That doesn't show hidden layers. It only shows hidden objects. If you go into your channel box, it has a visibility option right there. That's a Boolean, so it can either be 1 or 0. If you set it to 0, then it's hidden. If you change your visibility to 1, and that's basically all we were doing with hide and show there, separate from your layers. All right, so that's looking good. Why don't I lock down my inner walls? I want to bring in my windows. We'll start getting an effect here. All right, not looking too terribly bad. Let's bring in my door to see. Okay, I don't have it handle on the inside. That's okay. I want to be able to lock people into this nightmare so they'll never escape. You know, that sounded a little bit darker, but I'm just saying, I mean, look at this thing going on we got here. Zebra couch, 60s wallpaper, plywood molding. We're creating a regular palace here. All right, so I'll quit trying to make jokes and continue. All right, let's go and hit up the floor now. So we're gonna find a nice. The only thing I can think of to put in this house is a nice shag carpet. So we'll try to find some really just outdated carpet to put in here as well. So let's bring back my textures here. And I'm just going to type in shag carpet. See if it'll bring up. Nope, doesn't know what shag carpet is. So I'll just type in carpet and maybe I can find a crappy one just by browsing around. That looks pretty ratty. I guess it's kind of hard. Oh, wait. It's not seamless. I don't want to. We're not getting into creating our own seamless textures at this point. You know what? I guess I'll just have to go with a Berber carpet. But what's going to match my wallpaper? This is obviously. Let's download this guy right here. And we'll call this carpet seamless. Drag and drop it into my textures folder. All right, let's move it over, move that over. And let's bring back my hypershade. And we're going to make a new Lambert material. And we're just going to rock and roll and call this carpet. And of course, we're going to attach that file we just found. So where was that? Was it called carpet? Yes, it was. That looks hideous. All right, so do I have that selected? Yep, I have my floor selected. Why don't I go ahead and apply that material I guess the easiest way to do that would be to just middle mouse click and drag it on top. Let me press 6. Oh my goodness. I just want to leave it like this so bad. Our carpet is made out of huge ropes or just huge things of yarn. Oh, that looks so beautiful. But that's bad. Can't do it. So I really don't even need to UV this because it's a flat plane. I just have to kind of maybe resize it and rescale it. So I'll make it big. That's still a little too big. And there we go. Maybe it's a little. I could have done hardwoods. Why didn't I go with a hardwood? That's looking a little busy. All right, so yeah, there we go. And I don't think it's completely square, so why don't I do something like this? All right, I'll leave it at that. That's looking terrible. But, I mean, it looks good. It's on there nice. There's no stretching, but aesthetically, um, I'll never be an interior decorator. All right, let's hit up the ceiling next. So we'll bring in that ceiling. And this will be kind of the same thing. I'm going to go ahead and find just type in ceiling and see what we get. Oh, we're going to have some good ones here. Don't really want to do that particle board because that will imply that we have to have frames around it to hold up the tiles. So, you know what? I'm just going to go with something like a stucco or that painted weird stuff. I don't know. Or I could just, you know what? I got to make this place just really tacky. So I think I'm going to go with just a nice. Is this that? How is that a ceiling? That's like a floor. But I will go with let's just make it a really unfinished ceiling. Whatever. I don't care. I don't care anymore. I guess I should pay more attention to what I want my house to be in the future. But I've kind of left all reference material on. I don't care. Ceiling. Let's call this wood seamless. You guys can pay more attention to your art style. I'm just trying to show you how to get the textures on there and have a little bit of fun by making something that this totally looks ugly. And I guess I do have an art direction. I'm trying to make it look ugly. So I'll double click that Lambert and we'll call this ceiling matte. Color. Let's pick the file we want. There we go. Ceiling wood. This will. Oh, that doesn't look too bad. Psych, that looks bad. All right, so now we need to come in and adjust this. Again, we're working with a plane. I'm going to bring up my Windows UV editor. And we're going to, actually, I don't know what I'm doing here. Just kidding. I know what I'm doing. But I'm trying to scale it in one direction or another so it doesn't look too terrible. I don't want too much stretching to go on. There we go. That's beautiful. I like it. It's kind of hard to see though in this kind of environment. The lighting, the default lighting of the scene. Okay, cool. So I think all that's left to do for the interior, poor house. All we have to do, let's go to my outliner. So we've done the floor, we did the ceiling, we have to do the chimney next. Looks like we already did the molding. So I guess we'll do the chimney next. Okay. So it's getting hard to see in here. Why don't I bring in that chimney? All right. So there's that chimney. So the chimney, I think I have like this wood mantle around it or something, or I think it's just going to be all brick actually. So all I'm going to do next is just, I want to go ahead and slap that brick back onto it. and stretching out the wazoo. Select all these faces and automatic map. All right, we actually are going to have to pay somewhat of a special attention to the direction that these bricks are facing, or rotated rather. Bring back my window UV editor. Okay. Let's roughly get it the same proportion as the outside walls. Oh, did I do it? They're a little bit smaller actually. So let me bring back my UV editor. Make it a little bit bigger. I'm going to live with that. All right. So I have to. Okay. These walls are getting on my nerves. So I'm going to hide the walls here. Ceiling, you're going to have to go. I'll leave the windows and the floor though, so I can get a sense of where I'm at. All right. So this face is weird. That face is weird. So I'll select both of them, and I'll just rotate them like so. And I guess I could spend a little time in making sure that, you know what, I'm going to make these a little bit bigger. This part was made out of bigger brick. There we go. That doesn't look good. I'll select this one. There we go. And there we go. I don't like the way that's facing, so I'll do that. And I'm going to kind of keep it with the kind of grave it into flat face. That back face definitely doesn't need to be vertical like that, so we'll rotate that. The upside, I don't care about the top part. I won't be able to see it too much. I need to rotate this bottom part. And I guess I could, yeah, I'm going to make sure that this top part isn't bad. I'll rotate all of these. Position these separately. So even though I've done an automatic map on this, I still kind of have to go in and make sure that they're not too terrible looking. Definitely can't have a grommet on the outside. Whoop. Here we go. The top. You know what? I kind of want to leave the outside looking like this. Oh, it's nice and decorative, don't you think? Yeah, I'm sure you guys just like watching me move around islands, but it's part of the process. There we go. So with just a little bit of simple maneuvering of my brick, I now have a nice little decorative little lip up there. And we're just going to kind of let the tops and bottoms be as they are. All right, and I'll select this shell. I'm going to make sure my bricks somewhat line up like I did for my outer wall there. All right, that looks like that's lined up. Let's line that up. And then, actually, okay. So I lined up this. I need to line it up to the back because these are lined up to the back. I need to line this side up to the back. And then I'll figure out what to do with the front separately. So I'm in UV island selection mode. There we go. Let's go select the whole shell again. What I think I need to do is I need to zoom in here so I can get finer control. There we go. See how I zoomed in on the UV editor here? Now I have finer control over how far we're going to be moving these. Now I can get those grommets really lined up really good. And you know what? Let's do something like that. I don't want those grommets to be right on the edge there. Same thing right here. The grommets right on the edge there? I don't think so. So we'll make them, we'll try to avoid them as much as we can on the edges. Okay. So there we go. There's my chimney. And with a little bit of care to how our islands were positioned, it looks a lot better, I think. It's not just random faces thrown on something, you know? That almost looks like it was built by a human. And that's kind of what we're going for, right? So there's my chimney. I'll lock it down. I'm going to bring out my outer walls to see how they all look together. Okay. Yeah, that was a weird design for that house to kind of have the chimney kind of just bursting through the roof like that. But we'll go with it. Okay. So let's go in and tackle the living room now. Let's hide some of these things and bring up the living room. So I've textured the couch, and you guys can go and check out the last video and go to the section with how we tackled the couch. It was a little bit more involved than what we've been doing, in that we unlock that, in that we had to come in and kind of use some unfolding and sewing to get the textures to lie right, so there weren't too many seams going on with it. So couch is good. So we have to texture these two other things here. So why don't we see what we can do with the table right here. And table is going to be just another automatic map. It's very geometrical. So I'm going to go and apply a wood dark to it. And that almost doesn't look too bad as it is. But I'm still going to go in and do an automatic map. All right. And let's bring up my texture editor. And we'll resize the table there. Okay. And I think I'm okay with that. Kind of want to maybe reposition this. I don't want there to be a seam right at the top there. So I'll select the face, and it corresponds to this little island here. So I'll go to shell. There we go. And there we go. Kind of get that seam out of the top there. And I imagine we have to do the same over here. It looks like that one's good though. Actually, maybe it's not. That one's down there. Some bottom part. Yeah, we'll just call it good at that. You can see it's starting to really kind of fly because we already had that texture made. I'm going to go ahead and just automatic map this rug next. All right, so let's tackle the rug. And we'll do an automatic map for it. UV automatic map. And we have to go in and find a good rug texture. So let's just type in rug and see what we get. So not too many seamless rugs up here, so we'll just work with what we got. And I think what I'll do is I'll find something that's kind of got a pattern to it. Just a lot of pieces of the rug here instead of a whole one. I like that one. So we'll download this, bring up my folders. Persian carpet will now be called just rug. Sorry, Persian carpet, you don't get a fancy name anymore. All right, so bring up my hypershade, make a Lambert because it's not shiny. We'll double click it, and we'll go over here to my Lambert editor and call this rug material. And you know the drill by now, hopefully. And we'll call that rug. Ooh, pretty. And middle mouse click and drag it onto the thing there. So what we'll do is we'll pay special attention to the top of this rug here. We'll try to get it to where it looks pretty good. So I'll kind of center it. These things are getting in my way. So I'm going to go to select both of those, go to display, hide selection. Now I can just look at the rug and not have those in the way. We'll go to the shell, and you know what? I think I'm going to flip it maybe. And we're going to just kind of size it so it looks good with what we got there. And I like that. I was paying special mind to the edges there, so that's a nice little seam for it. There we have that. Okay, so I positioned it where I think the patterns are encompassed pretty well. So I'll go to show all, and there we go. There's my rug made. Okay, so I'm going to go back to my outliner. I'm going to bring back my floor here. And there's my living room done. So let's tackle the kitchen next. So let's make it visible. There we go. So we're going to tackle the counters right here. Why don't I make these two guys hide them? I'm going to hide those two selections. So I'm just looking at my counters right now. And my counters are made out of a lot of floating geometry, so I'll just go ahead and separate them real quickly. Separate. That way I can just focus on the larger pieces without having to worry about all the other floating pieces. And I'm going to go ahead and assign my dark wood to all the wood parts of my cabinet here, or my countertop. So I'll bring up my hypershade. With all those meshes selected, I'll right click on wood dark, assign like so. And we get some weird stretching going on because we haven't UV'd yet. So I'll go to components, go into face mode. We'll select all those faces and let's automatic map it. All right, so we're going to have to pay careful attention to the scaling between all the different pieces here. All right, mainly with this big piece, I like the scaling of the actual drawers and doors of the counter, but I'm going to have to go in here and scale the main part just so. So I'll just select all those. And let's call that done. Okay, cool. So now I'm left with these little handles here. So I'm going to select them all. And I'm going to put that bronze on there that we made. Where was it? Bronze. And I didn't select all the little pieces that held it. So what we'll do is I'll select the doors and the main part, and I'll even hide it now. So I'll go to display, hide selection. And for the most part, it looks like that's laying okay. So where's my UVs on these? Okay, so the default UVs for these cylinders seems to be doing a pretty good job already for laying down that. So I'm just going to leave those as they are. We'll get into mapping cylindrical objects later when we look at our chandelier or refrigerator. So I'm just going to quickly, these are really small details, so I'm not going to worry too much about them. So let's go ahead and go display and show all. And those are my cabinets. Really quick stuff. All right, so let's tackle the sink next. And a bunch of floating material meshes all combined. So I'm going to go to mesh, separate, so I can just look at the individual pieces. And I'm going to highlight all this stuff and deselect the actual sink. So I have everything that I want to hide selected. And I can just look at the sink now. And the sink looks like it'll be pretty easy to do. I mean, we could go in and, you know, do each one independently, but I'm going to go to my top view right here. All right. So with my top view selected, I'm looking at my top view. I'm going to do a UV camera-based projection. If I look at it from the top, I'm going to have a straight-on angle at it, and so whenever I project the UVs, camera-based, it's going to be a pretty good approximation of what the sink looks like right there. All right, great. And to really see what's going on with the sink, I got to go ahead and find a texture for it. So I'm going to go up here and find metal. I'll just type in metal. And we get a lot of different things. Maybe I should type in stainless steel. Okay. And I want to go with this. I want to pick maybe not so much the rectangular one, but this guy, the more squarish one. It's still a rectangle, but it's not really elongated. So I'll download that. And we got metal bear going on. Open file location. And of course, I have to do my usual. And it's not seamless, so we'll have to work around that. I'll just call this metal. Drag and drop it into my textures folder. And we're going to have to go into Maya. Let's grab my Hypershade. And we're going to make a blend. And we're going to call this metal matte. Color, file. And we'll just attach that metal. Where's metal at? There we go. So now we have this metal material. And I'll drag and drop it onto my sink there. Let's go into perspective and see what we're working with here. So that's like a brushed metal sink going on. Let's bring up my UVs. And you know what? This might not be seamless, but we might be able, nope. I see the seams there. So we'll just leave it at that. I think that'll be okay. Okay. And now we have to do the fixtures. So I want to go to display, show all to bring up those fixtures. And I'm going to go ahead and delete that side. We're going to have to do a little bit of careful UVing here. What I'm going to do is I'm going to focus on my little faucet right here. So I'm going to go to the top view so I can look down on it. And I'm only going to project on this half of my sink here. And I'm going to look at it from this side, wireframe. So I'm looking at it from the side with the one side selected, UV, camera-based projection. Let's bring up my UVs, and this is what we get. Not the best thing ever, but we're going to go to polygons, unfold, and it'll do a little bit of math, and it'll unfold it to the best of its ability there. All right, so I could go ahead and duplicate over, but we already got that side going on. So I'll just select the other side and do the same thing there. I'm not going to mirror duplicate across. I think it'll be faster just to do those steps again, and I'm right. So there's the sink unfolded. We have those two sides, or the spigot rather. All right, and why don't we apply, let's go to our Hypershade, apply that metal to it. All right. It's a weird looking metal, yeah. And we can kind of see a seam going down it like this because we have two separate UV islands. So we are going to get a little bit of a seam, but we'll work with it. We'll just have to make do. So the handle here will be the next big contender. And I can't just do a straight down the middle duplication on it. I'm actually going to have to come in here and figure out how to organically UV this. So I'm going to break this down into different chunks. So this will be a chunk, just the handle itself, and I'll deselect the shaft that it connects to. And let me go to my UV editor here. I'm going to, oh, wow. We're going to have to figure out a way to unfold this. So this will be a really good uh, camera projection unfold strategy here. So I'm going to look at it straight down. Go to UV, camera based, and let's see what it gives us. It gives us this really, okay, so I'll scale it, and that's what it really looks like. But if we go ahead and apply the texture to it, we get some really bad stretching. But if we go in and unfold, see how you can just select the whole model now, and I know this is my island over here. But if we go ahead and select these UVs and do a unfold, it really doesn't know how to unfold itself because there's no seams to unfold it on. So what we're going to do is we're going to go in and cut this up. All right. So I'm going to actually separate this bottom face. So I'll select all the bottom faces from my spigot, and I'll go to polygons, and I'll go to split UVs. So I've separated the bottom there, and the bottom looks pretty good. We're rocking and rolling there. And now I'm going to go in and pick some seams to cut. All right. I'll pick this corner right here, that corner right there. And remember how whenever we try to unfold it, it really didn't know what to do with itself. But if we pick these corners on this object right here, I think it'll have a little bit of an easier time of flattening this guy out. So with these corner edges selected, I'll go to polygons and cut UV edges. So right now we have seams along all these selected edges. So now all I have to do is select these edges again. If we go to unfold, now we have something that's a little bit easier to work with. You can see whenever we did the unfold, here are our corners here. See how they're now cut? And we are going to have some seams going on right here. Let me find a good corner seam. Actually, I think it did such a good job. I don't really see the seams. I'm really good. So with being able to cut out the bottom like we did and then cut these seams out on the corners, we were able to flatten it easier. So now we don't get any stretching. And you know what? I'm going to unfold it again. I think it can be unfolded a little bit more cleanly. Oh, maybe that's the best Maya can do with it. But either way, that looks pretty good. All right, so now I just have to go right here, and this is going to be a little easy way to select that lip. I'm going to hold down Shift and do the greater than sign. It'll grow my selection. And there's my shaft selected. And I'm going to just do a quick UV camera base projection. And I'm going to go ahead and just apply, where's my hypershade? There's my hypershade menu. I'm just going to go ahead and apply the metal to the whole little faucet here. So we're getting some weird stretching along here. So why don't I go in? What I have to do now is do the same thing I kind of did up there with those edges. I got to pick a seam for it to be cut down so it knows how to unfold better. So I'm going to pick this seam because when I unfolded it, it couldn't lay it out flat because it didn't know where the ends are. So this seam right here will say, okay, these are the ends. So I'll cut those UV edges. Now look what happens when I do the unfold. Now it can lay out nice and flat. All right. So you will notice though, oh, I'm just going everywhere with my camera. We are getting some seams in this though. This is just an instance where seams can't be avoided because we have such a weird shape. I'm going to go ahead and insert an edge loop tool right there. There we go. Now my seam won't be as obvious going up the shaft there. And then we're going to do the same thing for this bottom part here. All right. So to reiterate, I have a cylindrical object. I'm going to select all of it around. I'm going to do a camera base projection. And I'm going to go ahead and try to unfold it. And that's definitely not a good shape. That's just really weird and wavy. So to save this, let me undo that. I'm going to create a seam for it to be able to, cut down. So I'll select this little edge loop right there. Actually, I'm just going to do it manually by hand. So there's my UV seam that I'm going to make. So I've selected those edges, go to polygons. I'm going to cut those UV edges. And look what happens now when we unfold. It lays out nice and perfect. So pretty simple to get cylindrical objects to lay down flat. You just got to make sure you're putting in the right kind of seams. And I'm putting the seams on the back side of the handle so you don't see them as much. And then we have one more little problem area to take care of, and that's the flat part of this top here. And you'll see that they're all kind of just, they're represented by just a single line here. So I'm going to go to the top view again, and then all I have to do here is just do a UV camera-based projection. And I don't even think I have to worry about it more than that. And there we go. There is my spigot all laid out. And you see I have some really distinct UV islands here. This is kind of a quick glimpse at how you'll have to do some more advanced UVing here. But we've really simplified it because we've selected just the faces we want to isolate into their own UV island. We did a quick camera-based projection. And then if it was something like a weird cylinder or this complex shape with a top, left, back, and forward sides, we went in and we selected our edges that we want to make seams so that when we unfold it, it has enough leeway to put it flat down on the UV texture editor. So that's why I deleted that other handle there, because I don't want to do that twice. So I'll just duplicate this and do a -1 in the Z, because there's no way I want to do that process twice. So there we go. I've got my handles and my spigot. And then this guy right here, you know what? Let's just do an automatic map for him. I don't want to bother with, or you know what? Ooh, let's not do that. Let's practice our creating UV edges again. So I'm going to select this whole guy right here. Does he have a bottom? Do I have a bottom to this? Nope, no bottom. That'll be good. That's perfect. And then I'm just going to look at it kind of from straight down. We'll do a UV camera based. Let's go to my UV editor here. So if I try to do a unfold on this, well, I guess that's okay. I don't even have the right kind of material applied to this yet. So I'm going to go to my hypershade. Where's my metal? Well, these boxes got all messed up. There we go. Wow. So I see now why we're having weird seams going on my handles more than they should, because I had it outside of the one-to-one space. Remember, this metal texture we're dealing with, it isn't seamless. So that's why we're getting some of those weird shapes there. So I'm going to go ahead and pay special care to that here. I'm going to select my spigot here. I had to double click it to get it to go better. So I'm going to select some UVs here and go to shell. So I'll select all the UVs on this island here. And is this what I want? Nah, yeah. I'm going to flip it and put it right on top. And then I'm going to come in here and see how my spigot is outside of the one-to-one space here. I want to position it on the inside, so we're not having to deal with more texture seams, because, oh, that looks so much better. And I'll show you why. So I'll select these shells again. I'll move them up. And you can see right here, it's dark to light. That's because our non-seamless texture, it's repeating this light part all the way up here. So that's what's giving us that weird seam. So I'm going to make sure that we're not getting any weird non-seamless artifacts going on. And same thing for my spigot here. These shapes are just so big. So I'm going to do something called UV stacking. I'm going to try to stack all my islands on top of each other, like so. And why don't I go? I'll just go into shell mode. That'll be easier. Make that a little bit smaller. So I'm stacking them on top of each other and then scaling it down. So now they all fit within that 1-to-1 space. I'm not having to worry about, oh, that looks better. Now we're rocking and rolling. Because now we're not having to worry about, maybe the, oh, you can see that seam come up. See how it's got a seam there now? So we're going to, anytime you're dealing with a non-repeatable texture pattern, you kind of have to keep it within the 1-to-1 space so there's no seams. And I'll do the same thing here. -1 in the Z. And there we go. That's my sink texture. So what we're going to do now is we're going to tackle my refrigerator here. I'm going to go ahead and hide all of the rest of my living room. I already got those done. Display, hide selection. Control H would have done it, I guess. Why don't I just go for broke right here. I'll go ahead and apply my metal texture. Okay. Not looking too good. So I'm going to have a problem. I can already tell. So I'm going to bring up my texture editor. Is that really? Oh, that's okay. And I'm going to go ahead and just do an automatic map real quick on it. All right. So first of all, the metal is too big. So I got to go in now and readjust these shells. And we're going to have to do some UV stacking. So to do that, why don't I go ahead and just move, I'll go into shell mode, move these over here, and just get them off of the 1-to-1 space. And I'm going to single-handedly come in here and start stacking them. All these separate faces here, all these separate shell faces. So I can maximize the size of my texture. Like so. All right, so those are all the major pieces. And all these guys right here, I'll kind of just put them in later. But it's the bigger faces here that I wanted to tackle. So we're going to do that. So, it's tough not using seamless textures. We'll just leave it like that because that was getting weird seams going on there. And then I guess the automatic map for the cylinders here, that'll be fine. Okay, so I could spend a lot of time going in and I don't know, putting separate, maybe I should put a separate texture for this front little part right there. Does that mean I'm gonna have to find another metal? Yeah, probably, but let's do it. So this guy right here, I think these are all the pieces for it. Maybe, I don't know. There's no guarantee that we'll select all the pieces. So that's not what we want. I just guessed, and I guessed right, that these islands we're gonna be put together. So I'm gonna go ahead and separate these away, so I know that my ice maker area is a little bit different. And for the sake of time, I'm going to isolate. Why don't I go ahead and do a mesh separate at this point, so I can get the handles separated from. And I'm going to put a different texture on the ice maker and the handles here. And I'm just going to make a blend. I'm not going to go in and find a new metal texture. And I'm going to make it kind of a, we'll go into my color wheel. We'll give it a bluish tint, but not too much. We still want it to kind of be kind of bright. All right, there we go. So I'm going to go ahead and grab these handles Assign it to that new blend. I'm going to call this blend metal light matte. All right, so there's that. So I need to apply that same material to the front ice maker. There's my hypershade. Here's my texture editor. I'll grab these faces, assign the metal light to them. Oh, I got these back faces to deal with too. So I'll select that back face there, and I'll grow my selection. And then if I go to hypershade, assign, and there we go. A little bit of extra work there, but we got it handled. I just textured the handles of the refrigerator. Okay, I'm not going to go there. We'll go to the mesh, display all, where is show, displayed show, show all. And that is my kitchen textured. And you know what? The metal texture that I use, probably I'm not really too comfortable with it, but we'll live with it for now. The main thing is I spent a lot of time making some really good UV maps for my fixtures here. And, you know, maybe this is just a really brushed metal type of texture. Who knows? I don't live here. I didn't decorate it. Well, dang it, I did decorate it. We'll just move on. And we'll move on to the dining room, and the dining room table is what we'll tackle first. So let's bring that in. All right, so there's my dining table. I'm going to hide my kitchen in my living room. I can keep my carpet just to have some semblance of where we are in the house. And let's see if we can get away with a UV automatic map. I'm going to go ahead and put my dark wood on the whole table there and select the faces here, UV automatic map. It's pretty good, but we got to pay special attention to the wood, or to the legs here. I'm going to go ahead and do a mesh separate so I can break this down into its individual pieces. I'm going to go ahead and just delete all these pieces on this side. I'm just going to worry about making this side really good. In fact, I'm going to get rid of these as well. Then I can just duplicate these over after I get these fixed. But why don't we take a look at the actual table first, and then we'll get into its legs. So the table, I think, could be a little bit more detailed, or have smaller planks of wood. And then I'm going to pay special care to the sides here. Maybe put a seam down the middle right there. And do the same for this boy. And match my seams up as close as I can. So I'll zoom in so I can get a good view of how these two islands are matching up. And I'll zoom into my UV editor so I can get a finer control of matching up my seams. Okay. And we'll do the same here. We're not matching up UV seams, but rather seams in the wood texture itself. That's what I'm talking about. There we go. So like I said, even though we're, kind of going fast and loose with our automatic mapping, doesn't mean we shouldn't pay a little extra mind to some of it. And that already looks 10 times better. So here is my legs. And I think my legs look a little too small. I think I need to make those bigger. And I gotta select all the faces of these legs. Oh, mouse went crazy. So these are all the faces of my legs. I'm going to scale them together so that I can make sure they all have the same size. And I'm going to make them just big enough where there's no seams at all. See how this piece doesn't have a wood seam a plank seam going down it, but this one does, so I'm going to go ahead and make sure I don't see it. There we go. I don't think that's a seam, is it, or is that just a part of the wood? I don't know. It looks fine to me. There we go. There's that leg. So I'm just avoiding these the seams where the planks meet. So it looks like it's made out of one piece of wood. And that was being a little bit tougher. I can't find a piece of the wood where there's not a seam. So I'm going to cheat. I'm going to scale it so there's no seam. Don't be afraid to do that. And there we go. We're using the same wood pattern here to really kind of describe how this table works. And our legs, we want a solid piece of wood. So we're avoiding those seams. And this was a little bit too big to kind of get rid of the seams altogether. So we made sure the seams are matching up. And you know what? I don't want to spend all that time doing that for each leg. So I'm just going to duplicate the one I spent so much time getting to look real good. And I think that goes up like that. And we'll duplicate again. And we'll do 90 degrees there in the X. Because I think this piece ran all the way down the other side. And we'll fix the dimensions after we get it all set up again. I think this one was a little bit skinnier down that way. So now we have to pay attention to the diagonal pieces of wood. So you can already see a problem here. We're getting seams that go down across that way. I don't think so. We're going to have to fix that. So why don't we do something like this? We'll rotate it. Now we don't have any seams. We'll do the same thing on this side. And I don't like that grain right there. So I'm going to move it so it's a little bit more lined up right there. You still see that seam showing up right there. So we'll go to shell mode in my UV island. And we'll just position it so it's hidden. And what about the top? The top and the bottom are looking okay. Okay, these are obviously too small. They're kind of getting pixelated, so let's increase their size. And we're going to try to avoid those seams in this one as well. So I see I have a seam there. I'll select the face of this model or this piece of the model that I want to, make sure the seam's on, and that'll give me it'll correspond to the face in the UV, so I know exactly what island I need to be moving. I might even rotate a little bit. There we go. So even though we automatic mapped this table, we still had to pay special care of how our seams of the planked wood, the seams on the planked wood, were lining up with each other. And then we're just going to do some mirrored duplications. So we'll do that's going to be tough. How are we going to mirror duplicate this? If I just do a Control D and then duplicate in the Z, well, that's crazy. It duplicated all the way over there because our center points are not lined up. What I'm going to do is I'm going to select these three pieces, and if you look at my outliner right here, you can see them in this group right here. I'm going to press Control G to group them together. So now I have a group of wood, a group of these pieces here. I'll do a center pivot, and then I'll duplicate. Still not looking good. And then I'll do a -1 scale. So I'm kind of moving the table here. Okay. How did I have this set up? I think it was like this. So this centerpiece, there we go. I'm just kind of trying to reconstruct. And then I need to increase the length of this wood right here. And I think I need to make it a little bit skinnier so they're all fitting in. Did I really just miss that right there? I thought I fixed that. Let me undo this. Well, let's get rid of this group. I thought I fixed it where there wasn't a seam here. Something sneaky must have happened. All right, so I'll go to shell. And I'll position it so where you can't see the seam. I guess I have to do this twice. Lame. Shell. And then we'll just kind of position that UV island like so. So now you're not seeing it. All right, and we've already grouped them up like so. So now all we have to do. And there we go. And guess what I can do now? I can select all of these pieces right here on this side. I won't group them. I'll just duplicate them as is. And I'll bring them to this side. And now I've textured my table and taking into account the seams here of the actual wood. All right, I'm going to select the whole table again. And I'm going to do a mesh combine just to combine them all into one mesh. I'll go to edit, delete all by type, history. And here's my table. Mesh 001. There we go. I'll put it back up right above my chair. All right. So that's my table textured. So let's move on to my dining room chairs. So I'll delete one because I only want to do work one time. And let's see if I can get away with just doing an automatic map, or at least start from there at least. So I'll put it there. You know what? That seat already looks pretty good. There is a little bit of stretching right here due to the sub D. But I'll get over it. But we're getting weirdness everywhere else on the chair here. So I'm going to bring it, isolate it. And you know what? Let's just do an automatic map like I said. So we'll select all the faces. Control or UV, automatic map. Okay. We can see some of the seams popping in on my chair here. But I think it looks okay with an automatic map. You know, that could just be weird pieces of the wood. Like nothing strikes me as necessarily bad with this chair. Of course, I am seeing that stretching here when you go into sub D mode. So why don't we go ahead? I'm going to insert some edge loops so the stretching isn't as bad. And that's all I had to do. I just had to put a little edge loop at the front so it didn't stretch as bad anymore. Okay. All right. I'm going to leave that chair good. I'm just going to put an automatic map on it. And I can get away with that, I think, because the nature of the wood, well, maybe I need to maybe I do need to scale up the UVs a little bit so they're not as pixelated. Yeah, that's a little bit more resolution on these legs. We are getting a little bit of seamage going on, maybe like right here. But if we zoom out, it almost just looks like a natural part of the wood there. Right? So that's why I'm going to leave the chair done. I'm going to duplicate it again because I think I had two going on here. And this video is starting to get a little long in the tooth, but I think it works. Okay, so chandelier time. Okay, so the chandelier is probably, like I said earlier, the most complex piece of geometry in our scene here. So we're going to display, show, hide selection. So we're going to break this thing down and tackle it in bits and pieces. And then we're going to use duplication so we don't have to keep, UVing the same thing over and over again. So I'm going to go to Mesh, Separate, and I'm just going to get rid of all of these guys. I'm going to get rid of 3 of these, and I'm going to get rid of all but one of the chains. So we're only working with unique pieces right now. After we UV them and put the textures back on, then we'll be able to rebuild it by duplicating and rotating and all that stuff. So I think I'm going to put a bronze on it, or at least start out with bronze. If I don't like it, you can always put on that metal. So let's start out with the craziest piece first. Okay? And you know what? I want to go to Display, Show All. And I'm going to show you a little trick here. So I'm going to be able to display and hide pieces of this geometry. But if I do that, then I'll always be bringing back my table and chair here. So I'm going to go and select my tables and chairs and turn off their visibility. Then if I right-click visibility, I can lock selected. So after I lock it, if I go to show all, they won't show back up. But I know where they are in my outliner, and you can see they're dimmed out here. I can always go back and reselect them and right click on visibility and unlock selected and bring them back. But I'm going to leave them because I'm going to be able to come in here and hide pieces of just my chandelier and then bring them back without having to bring back my dining room table. So this is going to be crazy. First of all, I'm going to go ahead and delete these end pieces of the chandelier. I don't need them. I don't think they're going to be seen. All right, so this looks like it's going to be hard, but I think it's going to be pretty easy using some of the techniques we've already learned. All right, so first I'm just going to look at it straight on, select the faces, and we're just going to do a camera-based rejection. It looks pretty bad. I can't unfold it yet because I don't have a seam, so I'll double-click this edge loop down the center here. Go to Polygons, Cut UV Edges. Select all the UVs here, or I think I can even go to Shell. And just do an unfold. And boom, we're unfolded. And okay, that part's textured. Dang, I'm good. All right, so that wasn't too hard, right? The unfold method, while being able to specify where your UV seam is, that really saves a lot of time. So I'll go to Display, Show All now. And really, that's how we're going to kind of UV this whole thing here. All right, so that's the top. How am I going to UV this guy right here? Well, I can't go straight down the middle because I don't have a middle edge loop that bisects it completely in half. So when I made this, I didn't really take that into account. That would have made this so much easier. So props to me for not thinking of that earlier in the future. So I think what I'll do is I'll just break them into pieces like I did with the sink faucet. So I'll look at this hook, and we're going to fly through this because it's going to be really easy. I'm going to bring up my texture editor and just keep it right here for us. In fact, while I do this, I'm going to get every single shell right here and just get it out of the way. All right, the UVs for that are really just messed up. So I'll select the hook piece, so all the way down to where it kind of radically changes direction. And I'll grow that selection so I go all the way down to the base of where it radically shifts to almost a 90-degree angle out. And I'll just do a camera based, and then I'll pick an edge, double click an edge on here, polygons, cut UV edges, and then I'll go and select that hook shell and unfold. And it unfolds to this little guy right here. So that's pretty neat. And then it's just going straight down and doing that for everything, really. So what I'll do is I'll ignore the pieces that are looking straight up, because we can actually map those with an automatic map at the end. And I'll just focus on the cylindrical pieces. And I'll grow that selection with shift and greater than sign so I can capture these two lips at the end. And we're just going to keep going. Camera-based projection. And I'm going to try to pick an inside seam, keep picking the inside seams here. So I could just select them individually, but I'm going to show another little trick, selection trick. I'm going to double click this, and is that the same edge loop? Oh, yep, that's the same seam we were using. See? Since I double clicked this edge loop right here, it selected the edges all the way up and down this thing. And they also correspond to the outer edges of my hook piece. So I know that's the seam that I'm working with. Then I can just come in and hold down Control and deselect all the edges of everything else. So now I'm only left with the edges right here on my little, I don't know, trapezoidal cylindrical shape. Go to polygons, cut UV edges, right click on it and go to shell mode in my UV editor. Select it, polygons, unfold. And we've unfolded another part of my dude here. So now I have to pay special care to how they're scaled with one another. So roughly get them around the same scale. There we go. That's already looking really good. All right, another cylindrical shaft to take care of. We have to, okay, I'll do that. I grow the selection. Oh, and it looks like we've selected these guys up here. I don't want those, so I'm going to go ahead and, when I did the grow selection, it caught that little lip down there, but it went ahead and it didn't have an edge loop, support edge loop right there. All right, UV, camera based, and what edge are we working with? That's not the edge. I picked the wrong edge. See, you can see in my hook part right there. It's almost next to it though. That's not it either. Bingo. I've selected both the edges of my seams on my hook. So we're going to be using the same kind of seam all the way down here. And then again, I'm going to come in and deselect the edges I don't want to work with. So go into Edge, deselect the edges. Just keep them on the part where I did the camera projection. Now I can go to Polygons, cut UV edges. All right. And then we'll select that shell, unfold. You guys don't know how spoiled you are with that unfold. Before we had to, I don't remember how we did it. I used other programs to UV. Maya was so terrible with it before it really started having the unfold workflow. And then for here, I'm going to go ahead and kind of select this whole little bell part, all of it. All right. I can't grow that selection because it goes down right there. So I guess I'm going to have to select them by hand. Normally, you wouldn't be UVing something that has support edge loops on it. So these little annoyances wouldn't occur. And I'm missing that one right there. So wireframe mode helped me see. Or I can press 5 and go into default Lambert gray mode. So I'm going to project this whole little bell part with the two cylindrical pieces. I'll go to UV, camera based, so it keeps it all together. All right. If you did an automatic map, it would probably separate it into different islands, We don't want that. We're using our camera-based projection to keep it all one piece. So when we go in and select our edge loops, you know what? And I'm not going to guess on what edge it is anymore. I'm just going to select. I'm going to go into my UV editor, go into edge mode, and just double click the edges on the last part I did. So I know that, okay, down here, here's my edge loop. Okay. And again, we want to deselect the edges of everything we've UV'd perfectly or haven't UV'd yet. So we just are left with, oh, we got an inside part to work with, don't we? All right, this will be a good teachable moment. All right, so that's what we're running into right now. We've accidentally projected the inside part of this, but that doesn't mean we have to start over. What we'll do is, actually, I think this will be its own shell since it's not connected. See, we didn't project this piece, so this should still be kind of floating in around there. And I'm right. So we'll just, yeah, it's perfect. We'll just leave those separate for the time being. But again, I gotta have to go and see what edge loop we're working with. There we go. I've selected the seam that we've been using the whole time. Again, I know this because it's selecting the outside edges or the seams along the other parts we've already UV'd. So I'll deselect them there and there. And I guess I can go ahead and cut them for both here. I don't see why I can't. We might be running into another problem. We'll just see what happens. Cut UV edges. Great. So now we have our cut seam. Now let's just go into shell mode, do our unfold dance. Perfect. And do the unfold dance. And that looks pretty good. We even caught on the inside of here, we caught this little upper piece on the inside. But that'll be fine. I don't think that'll be too much of a problem. I mean, it might look a little weird. So why don't we select these faces right here? And with those faces selected, instead of cut UV edges, we'll split the UVs. And that'll split up these two islands here. And then we'll just drag it into these trash UVs. Because I think the trash UVs we have correspond to, yep, all the vertical up and down pieces. So guess what? Automatic map time. Since they face up and down, we'll do an automatic map. And it just straight up flattens them down there. And there we go. That looks a little weird. I'm going to go in here and insert an edge loop. I want to point out something though. Readjusting or remodeling some of the geometry on your meshes, it's doing fine, right? It doesn't mess with any of the UVs. But what happens if we do something like this, maybe? Like we combine a vertice. Well, that just made that look stupid. But if we can kind of just add geometry without messing too much with, the shape of it, it should be fine for the most part. So that's how I'm able to get away with adding geometry. All right, so we've got the main body made. And why don't we look at this guy? And we're gonna break this down into two chunks. We're gonna UV the crazy looking arm here. So I'll select all those faces, UV, camera-based projection. And then I'm gonna pick a seam. I'm gonna pick a seam that not many people will see. So the one that's kind of like on the bottom here. And you know what? Since we haven't really UV'd this, I'm not going to worry about cutting those edges. Because when we reproject them, it won't matter. It'll kind of erase that cut we're about to do. So we'll go to polygons, cut UV edges. And we'll go to shell here. And we'll do an unfold. Boom. Unfolded. And it's so nice. It's just so straight and clean now. Why don't we get these shells out of the way? That's getting in my way. All right, so we'll position that. Just look how nice that turned out to be. And you know what? I think we can do the same thing here. We're just going to go vertically down it. In fact, why don't we, I think it might be faster if we just isolated the up and down pieces. So I'll shrink that selection. And it got rid of those two little lips there. Let me show you what happened. So previously it was like this. This is the closest we could get to it. You know, we had this selected. So I deselected that and that. I just want to get to the top part. So I need to deselect those two little lips. And I'll just do a quick automatic map for that one. And that's another little up and down part there. So I'll isolate that. Isolate that. And then again, we're left with these two little support edge loop faces. I'll shrink that selection. I'll UV, automatic map that. What are these parts? What does that pertain to? Do I have hidden faces on this? Oh, I got some really small faces right there. Oh, that's weird. So here, yeah, that's awesome. Catching mistakes in my modeling as I UV. I think that's easily fixable. We'll just merge vertices. And there we go. They're gone now. Overlapping faces or zero width faces. Just merged the verts and I got rid of them because the verts were already sitting on top of each other. I'm glad that was there. It allowed you to see kind of some of the weird stuff you can see if you got weird geometry going on in your UV stuff. All right. So we'll shrink that selection. We've got just the up and down ring, UV, automatic. And we've kind of isolated all those bits. So now all we're left is this guy right here. And you know what? Why don't we just UV them all at the same time? Since we don't have to worry about the top facing faces anymore, or the up facing faces, just these cylindrical faces. I'm going to go ahead and project them all at once. Camera based projection. And then I forgot what seam I was using, so I'm going to go back into this the arm part and select that edge loop. So it selects the same seam edge loop on my arm here. And there we go. So I can see that this was the seam I was using. So I'll deselect. So now that I know that that's the seam, I'll double click it on my model. Now you can see all these edges showing up here. So I'll deselect the edges that I already have UV. So I'm just left with these this random projection I have over here that we're going to unfold in a second. And then with just those seams edges selected, I can create the seams out of them by going to cut UV edges. And then I'm just going to select them all. I'm just going to unfold them all at once. Boom. And I have UV'd the arm of this guy here. Oh, that's weird. That's not actually bronze, is it? Why don't I go to my hypershade and make a little light blend real quick. So I'll go and make a blend. Let's shove this out of the way. Let's call this light. Let's call this bulb material. And what I'll do is I'll select just these faces, grow that selection all the way down, apply the bulb to it. All right, so that's my bulb. Why don't we go ahead and make this more like a bulb? So I'll double click the bulb material in my hypershade, make it a little bit transparent, change the color to something a little bit warmer, like so. And let's just give it a little bit of incandescence. Not too much though, we don't want to wash out all the color. and mess with my eccentricity and all that good stuff. Too much incandescence. There we go. And then I guess we have to worry about this stupid chain. I'm tired of doing this stuff. All right, we'll keep going though. I'm going to give this the bronze material, and I'm just see if I can get away with an automatic map here. I think I can. It's a pretty simple shape, and I can. All right, so I do need to focus on how big these marks are compared to everything else. So I'm going to scale up those UVs over here. Or actually make them smaller. Kind of get the same scaling of my little guy right here. All right, so I got everything UV'd. Now it's time to rebuild this guy. And that's a weird, I'm going to have to snap this over here. Controlled, hold down D and press the V key, snap it there. So I have more of a way to rotate it around, I guess. Oh, that's a nightmare. All right. And I'll duplicate it another time. Pushing it. I'm just doing this real quick. You know what? I'm going to make it a 3-arm chandelier. Because I'm going to do it. I don't care. I don't care what anybody says. All right. That works. And then I just need to duplicate this stupid guy right here. And so I can get a better rotation on it. So that's my little helix there. This seems to be the center of my shaft here. So I'm going to press D to change the pivot point. And I'm going to position my pivot point right in the middle of that shaft. So when I duplicate and rotate it, it'll rotate around the shaft. And I'll duplicate 2 at the same time. Now I can get that detail back. It's all about working smart. And then being lazy by not wanting to duplicate 4 arms and just do 3 instead. Oh, you stupid chain. I still have to worry about you. Rotate there. Oh, what just happened? I think I duplicated. There we go. And there's my bronze chandelier. And set all layers to visible. Set all layers to visible. Oh, my table's disappeared. I got to bring it back from locked visibility hell. I'll go ahead and get rid of all those windows. Table and chair. Let's select those in my outliner. Let's go to visibility, my channel box over here. Unlock selected. Press 1 because visibility will equal true. And there is my house completely textured. All right. It's not the prettiest thing. I know I could do a little bit better, but for a beginner's guide to just getting used to UVing and managing a scene, I think I've made my point. All right, great. Why don't I go ahead and save? I don't think I've saved this entire time. Thank God Maya didn't crash. So hopefully you guys were saving after pretty much everything you UV'd and textured. All right, so that's my house. All right, so why don't we talk about what I want you guys to do? All right, so let's bring in the parameters real quick. So the first thing I want you guys to do is everything on the outside of the house. So that includes your walls, which you've probably already done, your roof, which you may have already done, any part that's on the outside of your house. So windows, doors, the foundation, porch, if you have a little, concrete little porch that I made there. Everything on the outside. And then when you get to the inside, let's get rid of that. And let's turn on back face choline. When you get onto the inside, I want you to do the floor, the walls, the molding, and the ceiling. Okay. And even I had a little chimney, so I counted that as part of the inside there. So basically the basic structure of the inside, those things I just listed. And then I want you to pick out one prop from each one of your 3 rooms. You might have already done one. So I already had my couch textured. So then I want you guys, if you already have something like your furniture textured, you're going to come in, you're going to pick maybe your table or something else in your living room. So one extra thing from your living room. And then I want you to texture your sink and fixtures. All right. If you've already done those, then maybe texture your appliance. You don't have to texture your cabinets if you don't want to. And then I want you just to pick a random thing from your bonus room. I could have just picked my chandelier or just my table to texture. So basically, the outside of your house, the main parts of the inside, the floors, the walls, the ceiling, the molding, and then just one thing from each part of your rooms, okay? So I'm not going to make you texture everything in your house. But if you do decide to texture everything, I will grade everything that you've textured. So you do have the possibility of making mistakes on those and getting counted off. But if you do that, I'll give you an extra 10 points up to 100. You won't be able to make 110. But I will take that into account and give you some extra points if you decide to go ahead and texture everything in your house. But, I won't count off if you just stick to the parameters here. All right, so this video is a little long, not as long as modeling it, and I hope you guys have learned some tricks, and you can see kind of how I quickly just put on some base UVs and textures on props in a scene like this. All right, thanks for listening, guys.